Hello everyone. In today's video we will discuss about digestion of carbohydrates. It is an important topic both for undergraduate students and postgraduate students. Even in my MBBS in first year in final examination my question on Viva started with this topic, that is digestion of carbohydrates. In my MD biochemistry examination also long question came on digestion of carbohydrates. I have tried to collect all the information from various books available and have compiled in one place, so it will be easier for you to take notes from all the books. So let's start the topic. The various dietary carbohydrates which we intake are combination of all polysaccharides, disaccharides and monosaccharides. So the polysaccharides present in our diet are starch, glycogen and cellulose. The disaccharides present are mostly sucrose, lactose. Few amount of trisaccharides are also present, like in leguminous seeds a trisaccharide raffinose is present which contains galactose, glucose and fructose. And also monosaccharides are commonly present, that is glucose, fructose in our diet. So the all the disaccharides, polysaccharides, they need digestion in our intestine, and monosaccharides, they are not digested as such and they are absorbed directly into the small intestine. So first, when cooking the polysaccharides, they get hydrated, which makes it easy for their absorption. The bonds present in the disaccharide and polysaccharides between the different units, monomeric units, are the glycosidic bonds in the carbohydrates. These are hydrolyzed by group of enzymes which are known as glycosidases. There are various glycosidases present in our digestive system in our body, which are so the different glycosidases are specific for the bond, the structure and the configuration of the monosaccharide units. So the digestion of carbohydrates, it starts in the mouth itself, as contrary to the digestion of lipids and proteins. So in mouth what happens? The salivary gland, it secretes the enzyme alpha amylase, also known as ptyalin, which is endoglycosidase in nature. It hydrolyzes the alpha 1,4 glycosidic linkage at random intervals. There is no specific sequence on which this enzyme alpha amylase, that is salivary alpha amylase, will act. It acts randomly and initiates the hydrolysis of starch and glycogen, and it cannot cleave the alpha 1,6 glycosidic linkage which is present at the branching point of starch and glycogen. So the products formed in the mouth after the digestion are disaccharides like maltose, trisaccharide maltotriose and oligosaccharide dextrin. What is dextrin? About 8 glucose units with one or more branching sites, that is presence of one or more alpha 1,6 glycosidic linkage. The digestion in the mouth occurs for a brief period of time because food remains in our mouth for a small period of time. That is why these products are formed and digestion occurs for a very brief period of time. On reaching the stomach, what happens? Further digestion of carbohydrate is stopped because this enzyme, it is inactivated by the high acidic pH of the digestive juice present in the stomach. And as such, stomach, it does not contain any digestive enzyme for digestion of carbohydrate. So no digestion of carbohydrate occurs in the stomach. Next, digestion in the small intestine. Next, when the food, that is acidic content known as chyme, it enters the small intestine, it stimulates the mucosal cells of the duodenum, which secrete two enzymes, that is secretin and cholecystokinin. The secretin function is to stimulate the bicarbonate release, which neutralize the acidic chyme, and also cholecystokinin, shortly known as CCK, which stimulates the release of pancreatic alpha amylase. The alpha amylase enzymes are of arises from two sources. One is from salivary gland in the mouth and one from pancreas in the small intestine. So in these two enzymes are secreted by the acidic content of the stomach to secrete secretin and the cholecystokinase, which then stimulate the release of bicarbonate and pancreatic alpha amylase respectively. Now the digestion in small intestine occurs in two phases. First phase is the digestion by pancreatic alpha amylase. Next phase is the digestion by intestinal brush border membrane enzymes. Means few enzymes are released, that is pancreatic alpha amylase is released into the intestinal lumen, and after that further digestion occurs by the disaccharides which are present in the intestinal brush border epithelium. So the pancreatic alpha amylase, what it does, it degrades the dextrin which was formed in the mouth into maltose, isomaltose and alpha limit dextrin. The alpha limit dextrin is a smaller version of dextrin. It contains around 8 glucose units, and alpha limit dextrin, it contains 3 to 5 glucose units. So these are oligosaccharide in nature. The final digestion process of carbohydrate digestion occurs at the mucosal lining of the upper jejunum, that is the brush border epithelium, carried out by various oligosaccharides and disaccharides. The oligosaccharides are large glycoproteins which are integral part of the cell membrane. Okay, and the active site projects towards the luminal site. So various digestive enzymes are present on the brush border epithelium which causes the further digestion. That is why in various diseases which causes damage to the mucosal epithelium, either short term or for long term, leads to various indigestion. It's like in ulcerative colitis, what happens, there is inflammation to the mucosal linings, which that is why various products like milk products are prohibited, means they are advised not to take, those patients are advised not to take milk and milk products, because the various digestive enzymes, that is disaccharides, which are present are which are normally present in the small intestine mucosal epithelium are not working properly. So the various enzymes or disaccharides which are present are maltose, are break down by the enzyme maltase into glucose, sucrose broken down by sucrase enzyme to glucose and fructose, lactose broken down by the enzyme lactase to glucose, galactose. Then glucoamylase, it also digests maltase, and what it causes, it causes breakdown of terminal glucosyl units linked in alpha 1,4 linkages. Dextrinase, it hydrolyzes the branching point, that is it is capable of breaking down the alpha 1,6 bonds. So the final products of digestion are glucose, fructose, galactose in our small intestine. Now this will be absorbed by our intestinal epithelial cells and will be diverted or channeled to the portal system. An important question is, why cellulose is not digestible by humans? So the answer lies in the structure of cellulose carbohydrate or polysaccharide. It contains beta 1,4 glycosidic bonds, and the enzyme which can break down the beta 1,4 glycosidic linkage, that is beta 1,4 endoglucosidase, these are absent in humans, and that is why cellulose are not digestible by humans. Now coming to this covers the digestion of carbohydrates. Now coming to the absorption of carbohydrates. First, the site of absorption, it is duodenum and upper jejunum. All carbohydrates are absorbed as monosaccharides. Different sugars, that is glucose or fructose or galactose, have different mechanism for their absorption. Insulin is not required for the uptake of glucose by the intestinal cells, and there exists a variation in the rate of absorption of different monosaccharides. How? So the relative rate of absorption of important monosaccharides are galactose, glucose, then fructose, mannose, xylose. So we take glucose as 100. So the absorption rate of galactose is much more than glucose. Then fructose absorption is approximate half of that of glucose. Then comes the mannose and then xylose. Then comparing the hexose and the pentose sugar, hexose sugars are more rapidly absorbed in our intestine than the pentose sugar. Now there are two modes of transport. Either it is active transport, that is energy dependent, or it is facilitated transport. Active transport is seen for glucose galactose and facilitated transport is seen for fructose and mannose. So suppose this is intestinal epithelial cells, brush border epithelium, this is the luminal side, this is the portal blood, portal vein side. So what happens? Absorption of glucose and galactose, it is dependent on sodium dependent. There is one carrier protein known as SGLT1, that is sodium dependent glucose transporter. So it carries means absorption of glucose galactose occurs against the concentration gradient. That is why it is energy dependent process. What happens in this carrier? There are two different sites for attachment of glucose and sodium ions. So the glucose and sodium ions are carried by this carrier SGLT1, and this sodium ions is again pumped out of the cells by an active mechanism, that is energy dependent mechanism, by Na plus K plus ATPase pump. Na plus K plus ATPase, it removes 3 Na plus out of the cell and it releases 2 K plus inside the cell, and 1 ATP is consumed in the process to release ADP and PI. So that is this. So directly ATP is not used for the glucose entry into the cell, but as glucose entry is dependent on the sodium ions also, that is why this glucose entry into the cell is indirectly, we can say, it is dependent on ATP or energy. Now fructose and mannose, these are entered inside the cell by separate transporter, that is GLUT5. So this is facilitated transport. Now after entry of glucose, galactose, fructose, mannose, these are carried out to the portal circulation with the help of another channel, that is GLUT2 receptor or GLUT2 channel. They are secreted out into the portal blood. Now there are various inhibitors which we will read now. Sodium pump, this one, that is Na plus K plus ATPase, it is inhibited by the cardiac glycoside OABIN. It is important, you can write these points in the examination, in your final examination. Then fluorescein, it is another glycoside. It competes with glucose for binding with the SGLT1 and hence inhibits SGLT1 receptor. So these are the two inhibitors of the, or inhibits the entry of glucose inside the cell or absorption of glucose into the cell. Then comes the facilitated transport is for fructose and mannose. Then coming to the clinical application of this is the oral rehydration therapy. The ORT or oral rehydration therapy, it is used for the, it is the I can say universal treatment for the treatment of diarrhea. It contains glucose and sodium, and the intestinal absorption, it is facilitated by the presence of intestinal absorption of sodium. It is facilitated by the presence of glucose. Now transport of glucose means after entry into the cell, we have already discussed it. GLUT2 receptor, GLUT2 transporter, it facilitates the transport of sugars out of the mucosal cells, and then the absorbed monosaccharides, they enter the portal circulation. Then coming to various disorders of carbohydrate digestion and absorption. First one is lactose intolerance. It is the most common disorder of carbohydrate absorption, occurs in majority of human adults throughout the world, and high prevalent in the persons of African and Asian origin, and low in North European origin people. And this disorder is usually rare in infants. Cause is reduced production of lactase enzyme rather than the alteration of enzyme activity. What happens? The mechanism is that due to deficiency of lactase, lactose is not digested or not broken down into its constituent. It passes down to the large intestine, which are acted upon by intestinal bacteria and release various gases like methane, H2, carbon dioxide, which causes abdominal cramps, diarrhea in the patient. Also, small chain fatty acids like acetic acid, propionic acid, butyric acids are formed, which are osmotically active in nature. So they drags water into the intestinal lumen and leads to diarrhea. So the clinical features seen in the patients of lactose intolerance or after lactose, as we know it is present in milk. So after taking milk or milk products, few patients complain of abdominal cramps, diarrhea, stomach ache, pain in the stomach like this. So this is the mechanism for development of the symptoms. Now coming to the treatment part, first one is lactose free diet is to be given to the patient and avoid milk or milk products. Also supplementation of lactase enzyme along with the lactose diet can be helpful. Diagnosis, it is by lactose tolerance test and hydrogen breath test. What is lactose tolerance test? First, on day 1 glucose tolerance test is done, and as per the procedure, and glucose values are noted down at different intervals in the blood sample. And then on the second day lactose load is given, 100 gram of lactose is given to the adult, and the same procedure as glucose tolerance test is given, is done, and at the same interval blood is drawn as done for the glucose tolerance test, and then glucose level is compared. So this is lactose tolerance test. Then hydrogen breath test, as we have seen, due to the intestinal bacterial action on the lactose, undigested lactose, hydrogen is produced as a byproduct, and some of the hydrogen it is absorbed in the circulation, and as it is a gas, so it enters the lung and eliminated through the lung into our expired air. So the measurement of hydrogen gas or the presence of hydrogen gas in the expired air or detection of hydrogen gas in the expired air by gas chromatography is an indication of indigestion or lactose intolerance. So this test can be, hydrogen breath test can be used as a test for all the carbohydrate indigestion disorders. Second one is sucrase deficiency. There is deficiency of enzyme sucrose. So sucrose intake in the patient leads to the same symptoms as we have seen in the lactose intolerance test. The treatment is to avoid sucrose or sucrose containing products in our diet. It is seen in 2% of North Americans and 10% of Eskimos patient. Okay, thank you.